the Walker family, to a loving husband, son, and brother. That was heavy, you know. If you think about it, like I was 23 years old and I'm behind all that. Like, I read that and I still remember my eyes watering out. It was heavy. Well, seeing pictures of it, yes, it's a big deal, but at the same time, like, it happened far away, it happened another time ago. It's in the back of your mind, but you don't really what this is. It doesn't impact you much. But when you're there, you think, okay, so X amount of years ago, people were walking through single file to enter this building, which they never escaped from again, or they wouldn't escape a lot. But you see what they had to see every day. It's just that much scarier, really. We're all students that are about to graduate. We know each other for 5+ years. Everyone is friends. So we travel a lot in that coach bus, so we'd all be close together and laughing, telling jokes and whatnot. Talk about what we've just seen in anticipation of what we're about to see. But when we get to, let's say, a concentration camp and then those big, important areas that you visit, as soon as we walk off the bus and we see what we're there to see, everything just stopped. People got quiet, walked single file, didn't say anything. So there was a little double think of what we had to think. And so when we walked through the concentration camp, we watched a little video. It was a gruesome video, I'm not going to lie about that. It came out, I remember some of my friends they were crying, and we realized that, wow, that was real. And it's just, everyone came to that conclusion at the same time. Well, before the trip, I wouldn't really consider myself that much of an emotional person. I figured that go on the trip, have a good time with my friends, visit Europe for the first time in my life, and of course I knew I was going to be seeing some sadder parts, but I didn't think it would have been that big of a deal. But there were times where I got a little teary-eyed and I realized that maybe it was a little bit more emotional than I thought it was. And when I got back, and still to this day, I think about what I saw and the emotions that I felt those days. Just, I feel for the people who experienced it firsthand just that much more.
What if we all took a second to truly listen to one another? We walk by so many people, monuments, photos, and paintings every day, but usually never take a moment to understand them or learn their stories. What if we all took the time to listen to one another more deeply? How would this change the way we see the world? I am guilty of not digging deeper into the meaning behind what I see and hear. Just the other day, while sitting on the bus, I saw a statue of a soldier in front of the Lachute Library that honors the memory of all those who have fought for our country. Many of you have probably seen it or passed the statue every day, and still can't say what or who it commemorates. The more I thought about it, the more I wanted to know, so I did my own investigation. I looked at the plaque on the statue, who named statues of soldiers who fought for our freedom, but what I discovered is that there are many heroes out there. I like to bring one in particular to light. His name was not on the statue. World War I broke out when this local hero was 26. He decided that by joining the military, he could pay tribute to his country. He then quickly volunteered his services and spent the next year and a half in intensive training in London, England. On November 18, 1916 in France, he tested his bravery by advancing his troops into enemy territory. Scared and most likely confused, he managed to destroy 3 German machine guns and defeated the enemy. In January 1917, Demi Ridge, in northern France. As a captain, he waited in enemy territory with his troops, sighting the dugout, until a damp and foggy morning on April 9, 1917. As the clock approached 5:30 a.m., everything would change. During combat, they started to separate from each other as he and his troops marched their way through the muddy shell holes and crossed what was known as no man's land. When he made it to their target point, there were only 2 of many troops he had started with. Imagine turning around to congratulate what you thought was your whole team behind you, but you're only left with 2 members. He then came face to face with 77 Prussian guards. What would you feel at this moment? You're alone, there's a lack of communication, and it's 1 against 77. I know I'd feel terrified, stunned, and want to run in the opposite direction. What I found so amazing is that even though they couldn't speak each other's languages, he was able to convince them by calling them to his imaginary force and managed to have them all surrender. Even though Thane Wendell McDowell's name isn't on that monument, I learned that he isn't a disposable person who once had a duty. He was a hero who risked his life for the freedom of others, and for his actions, he was awarded the highest military decoration, the Victoria Cross. It's stories like his that show us how easy it is to glance up but never appreciate his surroundings. He's not a relative of mine, and despite this, he is someone who has become an inspiration. What makes this so empowering for me is that through his story and through my research, I've discovered how easily we take the world around us for granted and never stop to wonder. It's up to us to keep important memories alive and continue honoring the people who have risked their lives for our freedom. All it takes is a few extra seconds to listen, learn, and appreciate. There's more going on in the world than what we see every day. If we never take the time to listen, what will become of the history we once had?
July 9th, 1943, Sicily. Riding down a rural country road, the warmth of the sun on my back and the cheers of my schoolmates echo on the peaceful mountainside. The sound of distant church bells awake the town below. The beaten road that leads to the beach has been deserted. Fear of an American invasion has a hold on the minds of many people these days. A few weeks ago, the German forces blew the bridge to the beach, but during my free time, I found a way around it. We approached the footpath in silence, making sure we were not followed. We walk single file down the path, our bicycles at our sides. We don't dare leave them behind, for they might have harbored unwanted attention to the trail secretly carved into the mountain. Birds are chirping as we make our descent to the waterfront. I wish I could be one of those birds, flying freely in the warm breeze, singing, eating. Sometimes I feel trapped, as if the small Italian town I grew up in has turned against me. The Italy I know has been crushed by a fascist dictator and his warmongering ally. I wish I could fly high in the sky, away from this misery. My schoolmates and I stop abruptly as we hear the roar of planes fly overhead. The birds, those free and majestic birds, flee from the sound. Oh, how I envy them. My friends turn and run. Thoughts of their family must be haunting their minds. Mine are ones of curiosity. Alone now, I continue down the path. My heart is racing and my pace is quickening. I end up running as if I don't have control of my legs. A steep incline separates me from the view of the sea. Bicycle in hand, I do not stop to look. Behind me, the view changes from the dusty foothills of Sicily to the Mediterranean Sea. I am not greeted by the usual sight of crashing surf or by the smell of salt water, but by hundreds of American ships. The smell of diesel burns my nose. I look towards the beach and see dozens of landing craft and soldiers everywhere. Something catches my eye. A small sandcastle is on the beach. The sandcastle collapses as the tide comes into shore. As the wave pulls back, it takes the castle with it. The beach looks seemingly perfect, as if the castle had never even existed.
In front of me stands the creator of war. The peace in his eyes is completely torn. His long obscure cloak hangs from his shoulders, and with every sharp step, turns his back on our soldiers. But he doesn't care. What has he to lose? No one's in his way. He has people to use. In front of me stands evil. It stares straight in my eyes. In their depth, I see soldiers aim to survive. They creep, so frightened, through the deep wet trenches. Their hands tightly clamped, thoughts of war, only wretched. Their hearts beat rapidly with every stride, and their worried eyes now show no more pride. In front of me stands the master of warfare. He delivers to all the feeling of despair. The ones who are left find no more allies. What they discover, only layers of lies. Lost in the battle, the only peace they can find are memories of home kept safe in their minds. The author of war sits back, carefully observing the chessboard of war as pawns die undeserving. He then tells me that there are games to be played, and with the malicious grenades, you must do it my way. I peek over his shoulder to see people fall. The cause I'm fighting for, I don't know at all. Once I clear my thoughts, I see who I've been watching. Cannot believe it was greed and powerful brainwashing. I now realize there is no light in war's tunnel. It starts with the cause, but creates further troubles. As I look at his face, I see his great lack of awareness. He'll never feel love, nor touch upon fairness.
My great-grandfather, Leonard Elder, was a brave, smart man. He was one of many Canadians who enlisted to go overseas to repair the bombed bridges in Germany during World War II. Though I never got to meet him, I learned about his heroic journey through my grandmother. She told me what her father went through and shared the stories and pictures he brought back, the tasks he was faced with, and the obstacles and tragedies he had to overcome. This is his story.
November 1944, Petawawa, Ontario. I've just been sent to a training camp here until I get deployed overseas. I said goodbye to my pregnant wife and 3 children earlier today, not knowing when I'll see them next. I'm leaving my family at home to fend for themselves. This is the only way to make money. I know this is the right thing to do, the honorable gesture towards my country, yet it feels so wrong leaving everyone I love behind. I don't want to miss my daughter's first day of school, or my son's first steps. My kids will be missing their father, as I will be missing them all incredibly. December 1944, Halifax. We boarded the ship just moments ago. It will take us to England. I'm not sure what to expect, but I must be brave, I must be strong. I need to remember that I'm doing this for my family back home, and hope that this is the only Christmas I spend away from them. March 1945, Germany. Yesterday we were traveling to our next stop when we came across another bombed bridge. We've been working at it for several days and we're almost done. The destruction this war has caused is unfathomable. We've been repairing bridge after bridge for months and passing by bombed houses and buildings that still have bodies stuck in the rubble. Even with time, this part never gets any easier to see. The other day I saw a little girl walking around crying, looking for her parents. She reminded me of my daughters. What if this was my little girl? What if this was the life my girls had? That's what keeps me going. May 1945, France. We've just been asked to re-enlist our services to go to Japan. I'm terrified. I cannot stand to see more of what I've seen in the past year. I need to see my family. I also received a telegraph today from my wife saying she has the baby. It's a girl. I cannot risk my kids not having a father. I know it might seem selfish, but I have too much to lose. June 1945, France. The war is officially over. All soldiers are being sent home, except for those who failed to re-enlist for Japan, such as myself. As punishment, we must wait another year before being allowed to board the ship home. It's devastating. I was so close to seeing my family again. Another member of my unit, my close friend Bill, is also staying. They won't let him go home to the Maritimes to see his family either. This is the thanks we get for giving our help, all the time and work we spent repairing everyone's mess, and they keep us from returning to our families. This is outrageous. This is how they treat their men, and how do they treat the enemy. Not only can I not see my wife and children, but also I will never be able to see my brother again. I just got news that he was killed in an attack. I'll never be able to see Malcolm, my younger brother, again. The war's taken the only brother I had. October 1945, France. This morning, as I walked through the empty streets of France, a young girl, 6 or 7, at most approached me, asking for a chocolate bar. Just this simple encounter nearly brought a tear to my eye. How can this young girl go through everything she did and still come out of it with her innocence? May 1946, almost home. It has been nearly a year since the war ended, been over 2 years since I have seen my family. We boarded the ship what feels like ages ago. I cannot wait to see my family and meet Charlotte. She's now a year old. When I get home, my family's all waiting for me. My wife to finally see her husband, my older kids, their father, and my youngest, a complete stranger. This is the first time I've seen my youngest daughter. I can't describe what it feels like to be a stranger to one of my own children. It is something I'll never forgive myself for. My kids have lived without a father for 2 years. This has been one of the best days I have ever had. Just being able to laugh and talk with my family is such a relief. To see how much they've all grown in the time I've been gone is heartbreaking. September 1946, the shoot. I've been home for a few months now, yet I still wake up from nightmares so dark, so real. It feels like I'm back there trying to survive. My dream, I help as many innocent victims as I can. See the bombs come down on civilian houses, schools, and hospitals. I can feel the ground beneath my feet trembling, an ear-splitting noise, and the explosions. I can't stop these nightmares. I jump at the slightest sound. I feel as though I'm going crazy, but nothing will stop these memories. My family looks at me with sad eyes, trying to understand what happened to me, but I'll never tell them about the horrific experiences I went through, for I would never wish these memories on my worst enemy. I would also never wish someone not having their youngest child know them. It is the worst sadness to a father when his own daughter doesn't recognize him. I could have lived a lifetime without knowing what was out there, but now that I have, it has changed me. I'm not the young man who left for war a little less than 3 years ago.
I am home. The positivity, the light, welcome me every day and warm my bones like a tree soaking in the sun after a long winter. Gunfire is only heard in my dreams. These dreams, filled with smoke, destruction, ghosts, are accompanied by the smell of iron. Is it blood or the twisted metal that caused it to flow freely? The baritone of explosions adds layer to the unrelenting pounding between my eyes. I feel the confusion, the strangeness of my foreign surroundings, and my ache for home. That ache, the deepest of all my pains. And I am here, so why does it not feel that way? The familiarity I searched for evades me. All these memories that kept me motivated, alive with emotion, are not reality anymore. My mother's face is lined, her back bent. My babies, all grown, peer at me through suspicious eyes and hug me cautiously. Even my favorite meal has just a hint of something different. Everything's strange, as foreign as my years overseas. I guess since I've left, there's been a lot of change. It would be so easy to throw the blame at the people around me, to seethe with anger at them daring to go on living while I was away. But I don't. They have changed, but so have I. War has affected who I am, my way of thinking, and my expectations of home. I feel selfish, having not thought that they too were affected by my absence, as I was by theirs. My mother's face, though lined, lights up with the same smile when she sees me. My babies may hug me cautiously, but tightly nonetheless. Why, even that hint of something new in my favorite meal may just be what was missing. Even though home changes when you wander far from it, its warmth, its love, remain the same. The dreams continue, and through the chaos, I slowly let the warmth of home seep in. Like that one leaf left on the tree before the winter, I latch on, knowing that once that feeling is gone, I am dead and the snow can cover me.
Lena Meyer, my Oma, is now 101 years old, yet still physically, mentally, and psychologically strong. She is amazing. While I've only met her 3 times in my 16 years, and while she only speaks German, the connection we share is powerful. She was 26 when the Second World War broke out. Her big brown eyes were still saddened by all the miseries of the First World War. All she could do was try to survive. She lived in Grotzingen, a small village close to Karlsruhe and beside the Rhine River in the south of Germany, a hotspot for bombs. With her family beside her and a world of pain in front of her, all she could do was be strong. Despite the constant struggle of living in a war-ridden country, love made her complete and hopeful. 1939 was the year her one true love was ripped away. Engaged and anxious, she sat alone, waiting for the return of Idol, her future husband. All that she was left with was worry and fear. all she had of idol was a war helmet to compensate for the heartache. Marriage has always been something I dreamed of. The dress, flowers, my bridesmaids are just some things that run through my mind. Lena never had the chance at all that. War canceled her plans, and a long-distance marriage was arranged. If you ask her about her wedding day, all you can hear is pain. You see the fear of bombs in her eyes, you can smell the smoke in her story, and all you want to do is bring her close, let her tears soak into your shirt, and show her you're not going anywhere. Her wedding ring is a symbol of the forever she lost. Lena has been alone for 70 years, never remarried, never loved anyone else. She never felt the need to. The dent in her finger from her ring shows the struggle she had to face of rebuilding her life. Imagine the birth of your first child. How happy you'll be when you hear their little cries and hold their tiny fingers. My great-grandfather missed the birth of his first daughter. Luckily, he was on a 14-day leave when the second came along. But of course, he had to leave soon after. This time, he left behind 2 beautiful baby girls. Whenever I ask my great-grandmother questions, her thoughts come pouring out without any hesitation, but they stop when I ask the dreaded question, how? She's never answered that question. My mom later explained it to me. The invasion of Poland was when it all came crumbling down. Tanks everywhere, mines everywhere, and idols rotten luck creeping up behind him. A few days after his arrival, his tank found its way across a minefield, slowly rolling around until a flash of light swept over everything. He was gone. Memories still haunt her at night. What if her husband was there to witness their children growing up, to kiss them goodnight, to love them and show them the affection they were lacking from him? The memory of her doorbell ringing, the cry she let out on a cold February day in 1945, the courier's gaze they exchanged as he walked back to his car. Nothing has been the same. Memories send shivers up her spine, like her husband's laugh, his gentle touch, and memories of the love they once shared. I've never been so stressed. My class is building up on work, college applications, and wanting to get everything right. My mind is full at every second of the day. My dreams are flooded with school, and my heart pounds at every deadline. Yet this story calms me down in a way, and it makes me feel secure. I think about all the stress she had to deal with, the fear she felt, and it makes me realize I could have it 10 times worse. I'm stressed, I'm scared of my future, but she was scared for her life. She was angry, yet she survived, and she's the strongest person I know. She told me once, nothing is solvable through war. War only brings pain and misery. My hope is that humanity will grow enough and learn to care enough to abandon war. To this day, this has stuck with me. She still has hope. Even through everything, she has hope. She has said, I have to believe that it made me and my children stronger. We're survivors. Mr. Foreman told me the other day, through my tears and stress, he told me, everybody comes into this world kicking and screaming and leaves with a final gasp. It's not that matters. It's what you do in between that counts. What my great-grandfather and grandmother did in between matters. He fought for his right to freedom. He died for the country he once knew and for the 3 girls he left behind. She lived in bunkers. She raised 2 daughters alone while her husband was lost at war. And they are incredible. I want to make a difference. I want someone to look at me the way I look at her. She's my inspiration and my hero.
Never wounded and never the same. My grandfather was living with his family at the start of the Second World War in Warsaw, Poland. His family was middle class, his dad owned a factory. When the war came to them, it was the Jewish New Year, and being Jews, it was usually a time of celebration for them. The Nazis made sure to firebomb the Jewish district for the duration of the holiday. This was not the first bombing of the capital, and it would not be the last before the city was reduced to rubble. By the end of the war, as one man put it, hardly a brick lay on top of another. My grandfather said the worst part of being bombed was that there was absolutely nothing they could do but wait huddled together, hoping they wouldn't be hit. My grandfather and his brothers would sit in their attic and wait for firebombs to fall through the roof. Since they had a short time to grab the bombs before they exploded, they would pick them up and throw them out onto the street. You could imagine the absurd amount of stress that would accompany that job. It would scar them for life, and they would never forget the experience. To think that when I was 13, I was playing Call of Duty. I realized our childhoods were completely different in the way that my grandfather never really had a childhood.
For all of us gathered here, it would be like being in the middle of the worst war in history, from Sec 1 to our first year of Salle. The way it was told, Nazi occupation was like experiencing a never-ending anxiety attack. My grandfather was comparatively lucky, being blonde-haired and blue-eyed. This meant that Germans recognized them as Aryans to the extent that before the war and during the Berlin Olympics, teenagers who knew his family were Jews threw rocks at them on the street until a stranger stopped them, saying that they were Aryans. When the kids explained that they were in fact Jews, the man apologized to the teens and joined in the rock throwing. Also, my great-grandfather, the man you see on the screen, had his family speak only proper Polish in the house, as opposed to the language of the Jews, Yiddish, so they did not even sound Jewish. This man had the foresight to build a hidden room in his factory before the war, where he hid and saved 50 people when the Germans began deporting the Jews to concentration camps. He saw the war coming, and it was his actions that ensured the family survived. He was never recognized for his heroism, and died 8 months after the war ended of a heart attack. Despite these great advantages, there was still the very real danger of being a Polish Jew under Nazi rule. He saw his best friend shot in the head in front of him for being Jewish. Only by luck was he able to escape. Imagine the guilt. Imagine thinking, why me? Why did I survive? When so many others perished. Almost everybody he knew growing up died in the Holocaust. All his friends, his neighbors, his teachers, everybody but him, his brothers, his father, and one of his 2 sisters. To put it in numbers, 98% of Warsaw's Jews were killed during the war. Survivor's guilt would plague the lives of my grandfather and those of so many others. After the war, due to his inability to trust anyone, he found that he couldn't make friends anymore. He would have frequent nightmares of his experience in the war until the day he died. As he got older, they got worse and worse. I remember him staying at our house and waking up in the middle of the night screaming in Polish. This was the most I had ever heard from the war, from him directly. All the information I have about his wartime experience comes from an interview he did that became part of a documentary collecting the stories of Holocaust survivors. This has always been a topic I've been passionate about because it hurts a lot to think that my grandfather and millions of other people from that generation grew up in a time where people had to live like rats to avoid being murdered. It hurts to think that kids not much older than you and I would be joining the army and dying on the battlefield. For me, it hurts most to think about the people that had to live through that and fight and watch their friends die and try to move on. Talking about the people who had to fight that weren't soldiers, that were just kids or lawyers or watchmakers that had to do something terrible because it was right. Because they were defending their country, their home, their way of life, or in my grandfather's case, fighting for their right to live. I regret never having the chance to talk to him about what happened, to never know how he felt about it all. He recognized that it did happen, and he talked about his experiences freely with his close family, because he didn't want the war to define him as someone who was scarred by it. We owe it to him and people like him and the countless others that went through hell to acknowledge and remember the sacrifices they made in order to survive. Sacrifices not only of the body, but of the mind. Like so many others, even though he was never shot during the war, there was never any doubt that my grandfather was wounded. He was never the same person he was afterwards. When the war started, he was a 13-year-old kid named Benjamin. When it ended, he was a young man named Boleslav. Because a Jewish name like Benjamin would have gotten you killed. He never changed his name back because, as he said, that person didn't exist anymore. I'd like all of you here to think of who you are and what you might become more. A hero, a nervous wreck, maybe just someone who'd never be quite the same.
Should I call him a fool or ask why he can't hear? Should I laugh? Should I cry? Should I say it's alright or just think that it's no big deal? He has to be the man that we need. Our family is falling apart, but they don't twisted and agonized heart. He feels like a fake, like he lies for his sake, so that others won't see his decay. He puts on a show so that no one will know who he is when he's not on display. On display. He came back from the war, sick, beaten, and torn, a stranger to even himself. But they faced him right up, said he has to be tough, and his feelings, they go on the shelf. He continues along as if nothing is wrong, as his thoughts and his memories rage on. I wish he would share all the burdens he bears. Then finally a thought on me dawns. He feels like a fake, like he lies for his sake, so that others won't see his decay. He puts on a show so that no one will know who he is when he's not on display. On display. He won't have to stay forever this way. All could be fixed and repaired. He just has to talk, take down all that blocks, then suddenly he trembles, he's scared. He finally decides to tell me he's alive, he's not who I think he should be. With my tender gaze, he looks so amazed, and I say that I love him, and I see now he won't feel like a fake, he won't lie for his sake, he lets others see his decay. There's no longer a show, and now everyone knows who he is when he's not on display. On display.
I am safe in this place. I see not with my eyes, for they are not yet open, but with my hands, fingers clenched into small fists, reaching out to touch the little space that is my home. Here and there are membranes, spattery veins that pulse and tremble at my touch, reminiscent of the life they carry. It is quiet in this place. My ears are not yet attuned to a world of noise. All around is an internal silence, like a soft blanket that weakens a fall, absorbs the shock in one place. The ocean is my kingdom, and sound is just a whisper of life above and beyond that. No one has heard the reality of sound, not here. Our ears capture only the ghosts of noise, a little hush that flickers in and out of existence, but not living, not really there at all. In its true form, it is a heavy noise that creeps its way into the mind, generating a deafening explosion that resonates without end. And sometimes, like a gentle breeze, that silence is lifted, carried away before some penetrating noise is brought here among the stillness. The water is at rest, but somewhere a ripple, a wrinkle in the face of silence. I am sheltered in this place, The world raps at my door, but I will not leave this comfort. I am bound to my home, flesh to nurturing flesh, and in this union I am bound to the sustenance of my life. Her pulse is my pulse, her body the fuel to my survival. This place is my world, and I am its privilege. I am wrenched from my home. 1,000 spiteful glances overwhelm me, and in my first display, I am vulnerable and exposed. My eyes open to the world for the first time, fingers, hands, opening and closing, in search of any purchase, something real, something tangible that can bear my weight. I touch nothing but the open space that is my prison. It is deafening in this place. The noise, so invasive and unfamiliar, racks my body with a burning intensity in all of its sincerity. I am unbound from my security, my quietude, my asylum, my heart frantically beating to find its rhythm again. My pulse quickens, no longer echoing in the return of the once reassuring company of myself, my life. I am alone in this place. This space, this country so large that cannot protect me from the world as her body once did. Every breath is my own, every motion unguarded, and a reminder of the alienation this new world has made of me. I have risen to the surface, open and with expectation, like the beckoning hand of need. The ocean below has no place for me anymore. It shies away from my refuge, and I suffocate at its removal. I am born into a new world, and in me something is destroyed. My old place is not my home. I have been betrayed on my arrival here, but still cannot see it. Effortless survival has blinded my future struggle. I was never safe in this place. My world was false and disconnected from a reality I could not have known. My life was born from this world, but it did not bear me with grace. Its tragedies and its pains have become mine, though I did nothing to deserve them. My life is given no justice, and in the face of struggle, I'm futile. This is not my war.
Covered ears, rounds of gunshots, momentarily leaving an apparently peaceful world, now immersed in conflict. Crouched down, no one to save me. My desperate eyes search for relief from the dangers of this new world. Anxious, yet cloudy blue eyes look down on me, silently speaking to my frightened eyes, telling me I must run. This moment stands still as he stares. Behind his anxious eyes are images, pictures too vivid, too striking to erase. Behind those windows to his soul, I see he carries guilt, a burden of shame, failure of not having fulfilled his duty. Tears running as I know he must, escaping from our discouraged eyes. With each tear, we share the pain, pain seeping from the windows to our broken souls.
I'm 35. It's been 24 years since World War II. It's my daughter's 5th birthday today, and we're having a tea party for her. It's a warm day outside, and the girls are playing in the backyard. My daughter's wearing a beautiful dress and looks so happy, I almost envy her. She's had a happy childhood, and I never planned on leaving her like my mother did to me. It takes me back 30 years to when I was 5, in a vacuum. I've never forgiven my mom for sending us away. War has reached England. My mom says to me and my sister, "You girls are going to go on a train. You are being sent away, so you'll be safe. I don't know where you are going, so it'll be your job to send me a postcard with your address." I can't believe she's doing this to us. I don't know how to write, and my sister is only 7. Mother takes us to the train station. The chugs of the train beat louder than our voices. I don't want to leave her. I got on the train with my few possessions, a gas mask case, a bar of chocolate, and 19 postcards. I can smell the smoke and all the people around me. It's too overwhelming. I look through the foggy window and scan the sea of faces. I'm crying. What am I going to do without my mom? I hold on to my sister as tight as I can. Is this the last time I will see her? What about my family? What's going to happen to us? We arrive in Dorchester. We are brought into a hall to be chosen by a family. I see my sister and I have some of the nicest clothes compared to the other girls. I I hope your house will be chosen. I just hope that someone will want 2 girls. I don't want to leave my sister. A couple named Mr. and Mrs. Foot take us to their home. It's a huge house and very posh like the people in it. They only took us in because they had to. We were only allowed in the kitchen. Everywhere else was off limits. After a few months, Miss Foot gets sick and we have to leave. The next place we are taken to is the Kenny family. It's a happy place with lots of kids, so I like it. But like the previous placement, we can't stay because I have too many kids. I think I'm going to cry. I was getting used to it here. But maybe things happen for a reason, because Mr. and Mrs. Foster take us in. I call them Aunt and Pop. This is the best place so far, because I was given part of their garden. We stayed with the Fosters for 2 years, until again, we were forced to move. But this time, we are being split up. I don't want to go anywhere without my sister. We need each other. I don't like my new home. I'm all by myself. My bed is infested with bed bugs and I get a rash. When I'm brought to the hospital, I'm put in isolation. I don't know what's wrong with me. One of the nurses tells me that I have a visitor, but they can't come in to see me. I look up at the little window on the door and see my mother's face. I'm overwhelmed and screaming her name. What am I going to do? Wait. I'm screaming her name. I want to see her, hug her. I want my mom to hold me and tell me that everything is okay, but she can't. My rash is gone and I'm allowed to go home, but Mother has gone too. I was never able to talk with her. Miraculously, my sister and I end up to be reunited. We are both back with Aunt and Pop until the end of war. War is over. We're allowed to go home, but I'm terrified. Everything has changed. There, I discover my parents are no longer together, and my brother, Paul, was killed a week before war ended. He was 20. I'm awoken from my memory as my daughter asks, "Do you want to come play with us?" My hope is she will never know the instability I knew. I'll make sure she always knows where home is. My great aunt Margaret is an amazing woman. Despite what she went through as a child in England during World War II, she says, "You have one life, live it."
On April 24th, 2000, my father passed away from a disease he got while on a peacekeeping mission in Cambodia. I was very young at the time, and I never got the chance to really get to know him. While doing this project, I learned so much about him and the person that he was. I spent hours looking through photographs, letters, and listening to my mother's stories. This made me realize that the loss of a loved one is the true cost of war, and sadly, war has had a very large impact on my life. The Khmer Rouge was a communist party in Cambodia that came to power in 1975. They wanted a purely agrarian society, meaning a society based around farming. They isolated Cambodia from all foreign influences and closed all the schools, hospitals, and factories. They outlawed all religion, confiscated all property, and sent everyone to collective farms where they were forced to work. If anyone refused to leave, their houses were burned down and they were executed on the spot. The Cambodians were forced to work 12 hours a day without any time to rest or eat. The Khmer Rouge was insanely violent, and they arrested, tortured, and executed anyone they saw as an enemy. Over 2 million people died during their reign. Their motto was to keep you is no benefit, to destroy you is no loss. The Cambodians were treated horribly, and this is why my father, Gary Viancourt, went to Cambodia in 1993 with the United Nations. They were sent to rebuild the country and to ensure that the Khmer Rouge wouldn't come back to power. This was a very difficult and dangerous task since there were many risks. By reading the letters that he sent to my mother while he was in Cambodia, I learned what it was really like for him. During his 7 months in Cambodia, he saw many horrible things, like seeing a man he was working with have his legs blown off by landmines, and there were times when he thought he was going to die. He had to wear his combat outfit and have a weapon on him at all times, even when he was sleeping. Although it was very difficult, he never gave up because he knew he could change their lives for the better. While looking through his pictures, the one that stuck out to me the most was his picture of Salle, a young Cambodian boy. This picture made me realize how much people like my father affect the population in a positive way. Salle was separated from his family at a very young age, and he was terrified. He followed my father around, and my dad really cared about him. He protected him, and my mom used to send gifts for him, which made him really happy. My father gave this little boy hope, and that's what the army does. They go to these countries to help the civilians and make their lives better. Not only did they personally help the population, but they also restored the monarchy in Cambodia. Unfortunately, it came with disastrous consequences for my family. While my father was away, he was inspired to write the following poem. From near and far, we soldiers came to work together under a common name. We helped rebuild the Cambodian nation. UNTC soldiers poised at every station. With determination and style, we completed our tasks. Dedicated and proud, often doing more than was asked. And soon we will leave feeling certain of regret. They are the soldiers we must never forget. They came and they died on this foreign soil. The supreme sacrifice given through hard work and toil. Cambodia's destiny lies with their people now. We have given them the means and a certain know-how. And though the mission draws to an end, we will surely meet again, my friend, where the world is filled with much pain and sorrow, plenty of work for our soldiers of tomorrow. Hold your heads up high for the job that has been done. The work of the peacekeeper has only just begun. And so I would like to echo back to him. You are an incredible man with a heart of gold, which is why I admire you so much. I believe your story should be told. You sacrificed your life for the greater good, and the harder things got, the taller you stood. But their freedom came at a price, and no amount of good will ever suffice. I know the Cambodians are eternally grateful, but growing up without you in my life was awful. So much of my time is spent wondering if you'd be proud of who I'm becoming. I wish you could be here with me today, even if it was only for a day. I wish I could get to know the person you were, because your memory is slowly becoming over. But as Mom told me when I was about 3, I know you're still here, watching over me. I want you to know that I love you, and I know you'll always love me too. But if you could do it all over, would you still choose to be a peacekeeper? Even though a lot of good came out of this, was it actually worth it? Personally, I don't think it is. I know this may sound selfish, but no amount of good will ever make up for this loss and the pain it brings to me and my family. Nothing will ever make up for the fact that I grew up without my father. He helped so many people in Cambodia, but because of it, he was never here when I needed him. This is what the price of war really is. My father was a brave, selfless, and compassionate man, and I admire him so much. He helped make the world a better place, and that's incredibly inspiring to me, but at the same time, I wish he had never gone. Because what I want more than anything is to have him here with me. I wish I would have had the opportunity to get to know him the way everyone else does, instead of by reading old letters and looking at photographs at 16 and imagining what my life would be if he were still here.
fields the poppies blow, between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place. And in the sky, the larks, still bravely singing, fly scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunsets glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.
Au champ d'honneur, les coquelicots sont parsemés dans l'eau en l'eau auprès des croix. Et, dans l'espace, les alouettes, devenues lasses, mêlent leur chant au sifflement des obusiers. Nous sommes morts, nous qui songions la veille encore, à nos parents, à nos amis, c'est nous qui reposons ici, au champ d'honneur. À vous, jeunes désabusés, à vous de porter l'oriflamme et de garder au fond de l'âme le goût de vivre en liberté. Acceptez le défi. Sinon, les coquelicots se faneront au champ d'honneur. Please rise for a moment of silence.
Songs to the battle. They were young, straight of limb, drew by, steady in the blow. They were staunch to the end against odds uncounted. They fell with their faces to the foe. We shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, in the morning, gleam and moon.
There isn't enough air. Whatever there is around me is hot and heavy. I am being suffocated. Bobby was killed last week. I feel a stabbing pain in my stomach. He was biking home from work and was shot down by soldiers firing randomly at passers-by. As if I was punched in the chest, I can't breathe. The week before, my brother was called to fight in the never-ending jihad. I feel the hands of a greedy man moving up and down my back. My brother had always protected me. Just like that, my honor is gone. My virtue is gone. I bring shame to my family. I don't fight. I can't. Silent tears roll down my face. I'm always silent. Mommy and I are all alone. She's totally shut down. I don't burden her with my thoughts,
my fears, or the terrible things I witness and go through each and every day. I'm always silent. I cook, I clean, and I try to coax her to eat a few bites. Right now, I need Mommy more than ever. Her illness has become a part of who we are. On the rare occasions when I leave the house, I manage to convince Mommy to come with me. I see the scorn in the other women's eyes. They have all lost their men as well, and yet they have stayed strong. The word depression dances on the tips of their tongues, painting it as some pathetic excuse. They offer me what help they can, and their offers appear kind, but I hear what they're really saying. They're judging Mommy for leaving me to fend for us. They're judging her for shutting down. They don't understand. I am 16 years old. I have barely experienced life, and now every day threatens death. A missile roars overhead, and I'm powerless to stop it. I count the seconds as it passes. 1. I remember seeing my school explode. 2, 3, 4. I miss my friends. 5. I hid from the Taliban so as not to be beaten. 6, I was late arriving. 7, everyone inside was killed. 8, I shouldn't be alive right now. 9, I should have been with them. 10, I'm alive. That missile didn't come for me. Not this time. We live in terrible times. Simply being a woman or girl can get you killed if you're not careful. I risk my life every time I go to school or to the market. Things are so difficult for everyone here. Freedom is a terrifying and exciting word. It sparks so much hope. Hope that we might one day be free of this oppression. Hope that we might one day be able to safely walk in the streets, but whenever there's hope, there's room for disappointment. I love these kind people, these soldiers that are fighting for us, risking their lives, helping my brother stay alive as he is doing for them. I hope one day I'll be able to thank them myself. I hope they will bring us salvation. I hope I will not be disappointed.
Imagine if you had no say about who you wanted to be. Imagine starving for an education. We complain about school and homework when really we should be thankful to have an education. In countries like Afghanistan and Pakistan, children, especially girls, do not have the same freedom and chances that we have here. They are controlled by strict leaders who deny them their basic human rights. Those who try to fight for their rights against groups like the Taliban are either tortured or killed. Would you have the courage to fight for your rights even if it meant risking your life? We all have a right to live in peace, to be treated with dignity, a right to equality, and a right to be educated. If nobody raises their voice, who will speak for you? Who will bring change? Malala Yousafzai is a 17-year-old girl from Pakistan. Her religion is Islam and her ethnicity is Pashtun. As a young girl, she became an advocate for girls' education. Malala fights for women's rights, the right to education, and for peace. She fights for these rights because of the Taliban. They're a militant Islamic movement who control many parts of Pakistan. The Taliban enforce strict Islamic laws and are brutal towards women. They have banned girls from attending schools because they believe it is contrary to Islam. Women seeking an education have to attend schools secretly where they and their teachers risk execution if caught. Malala began to speak about women's rights, which angered the Taliban. When she was 14, she learned that the Taliban had issued a death threat against her. Malala did not think they would go after her because she was a child. On Tuesday, October 9, 2012, when she was 15, she almost paid the ultimate price. She was riding the bus to school when a man came aboard and asked for her. The gunman then shot her in the head at point-blank range. The bullet hit the left side of Malala's forehead, traveled under her skin through the length of her face, and went into her shoulder. She should not have survived, but miraculously, she did. You would think that a person would be completely traumatized by such an event, but Malala healed and continued fighting for her beliefs. They say that when you see death, things change. She has said herself that you don't appreciate what you have until it is ripped away. Her life was almost taken from her, yet this incident with the Taliban did not make her weaker, it made her stronger. The Taliban thought that the bullets would silence her, but they failed. Malala said, "The terrorists thought they would stop my aims and change my ambitions, but nothing in my life changed except this. Weakness, fear, and hopelessness died. Strength, power, and courage were born." Malala does not even hate the Taliban who shot her. She believes that if she fights back with violence, then she is no different than the Taliban. On October 10, 2014, at the At the age of 17, Malala became the youngest person to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. This prize is awarded to those who work for the best interests of humanity and who have made outstanding achievements in the promotion of peace. Malala shares this award with a man from India named Kailash Satyarthi. He is a children's rights activist. It is inspiring that a 17-year-old Muslim girl from Pakistan and a 6-year-old Hindu man from India can fight jointly for children's rights to an education. This shows that two countries can fight together for a change. Malala is a patriot. She loves her country and would be willing to sacrifice everything for it. She believes that we should not fight against war with more war, but with peace, dialogue, and education. Wars don't end wars. Malala has said, "I think life is always dangerous. Some people get afraid of it, some people don't go forward, but some people, if they want to achieve their goal, they have to go, they have to move." Malala is a remarkable young girl. She has done so much and at such a young age. My age. It just goes to show that it doesn't matter how old you are, you have as much power to change the world as anyone else. Girls and boys should take the lead from her struggle and commitment. As Malala says, when the whole world is silent, even one voice becomes powerful. Words truly can change the world.
Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, the Avengers. The list of fictional superheroes goes on. In fact, the media is filled with movies and TV shows showing characters with extraordinary powers or intelligence fighting some powerful villains. These superheroes are seen by some as true heroes, but they're not real. They were created from the inspiration of true heroes in society. The soldiers who fight for freedom, the people who can act selflessly to help others, and civilians who don't just want change, but enforce it. These people do not have extraordinary powers, but they have bravery and the courage to do what's right. The superheroes I mentioned before all share the same desire to purge the cities they protect, or even the world, from evil. They do this either with interesting weaponry or superpowers, each of them stopping crime, saving lives, or saving the world in their own ways. They aren't the only people or the only tools that can do this. Throughout history, examples of true heroics are everywhere. During World War I, soldiers had to stay in trenches, enduring some of the worst conditions imaginable. They did this to help their country, being selfless even in the midst of battle by fighting for others at the expense of themselves. During the Second World War, soldiers had to fight the enemy on land, sea, and in the air, doing this so that their countries could stay free. During the Cold War, leaders resisted the temptation to press that red button, preventing nuclear war. Heroism itself cannot be described in one sentence, and the definition in the dictionary does not explain who a hero truly is. Being a hero means standing up for what you believe in, acting unconsciously because you can't stand to see others suffer. This could be as simple as standing up to a bully at school, or as dangerous as running towards the bullets to help someone who is shot. This was the case on October 22nd at 9:52 a.m. when Nathan Cirillo was shot twice by a masked gunman. A lawyer, Barbara Winters, ran towards the shots, ready to help. 4 people were already there, and together they began to work as a team to try and save him, ignoring the possible danger of a second gunman. He died soon after, but with words of love to accompany him. That day touched every Canadian, but the bravery shown proved our strength as a nation. This fight is not over. The invisible enemy of terrorism is on the rise, but we have heroes who will stand up to it. These heroes do not come from comic books. You probably won't see them in a movie, but they are real, and every day they are out making a difference. The heroics that are committed by everyday people prove that together we can make an even bigger difference in the improvement of today's society than that of a superhero in the media.
Seven years since I came to LRHS for the first time at the request of Miss Verrill. She asked the military if they could send up a veteran to talk to the fact and fiction class. I was asked, and I gladly said yes to my chain of command. I walked into that classroom the first time, saw it full of students, full of future. I knew this was a special place, and year after year, LRHS has proven it. I've watched people I met over the years flourish. They've gone on to higher learning, traveled the world, become soldiers themselves, and some have developed into great artists, photographers, and singers. Every year I come to LRHS, I learned and experienced something new. This year is no different. I've managed to once again sneak in a trip all the way from Calgary to be here to join you and to be amazed once again. In my opinion, LRHS is the example that all schools in Canada should follow. There's so much passion, so much respect, and so much dedication in this auditorium right now that I would never want to be anywhere else on Remembrance Day. I thank you for once again having all the veterans, the guests, and myself here to share this amazing time. Thank you, LRHS. You've once again made me proud to be a soldier in Canada. We will remember them.
All the shadows on my
like to ask Trevor Holmes, Commander District 12, to please come up and say a word.
Job well done. I think you've dramatically shown that freedom is not free. On behalf of the branches of District 12, I wish to express our appreciation to the students and the staff at LRHS. Thank you, lest we forget.
When I first wrote my speech, I had written about how I, alongside the majority of my Canadian generation, had never experienced war. I wrote about how we had never had the life-shattering experience of our homeland being a battlefield. I wrote about how I was thankful for only being able to imagine. Unfortunately, these feelings changed on the week of October 19th. 2 Canadian soldiers had passed, and our freedom had been shaken. We were given the taste of how easily, how horribly, things can change. Of course, this hardly compares to the truly heavy feelings that full-scale war can bring upon us, but it still had a large impact on our country's feeling of security and pride. Regardless, this devastating event still served as a point of realization. A realization of how valuable our freedom truly is, of how easily it can be broken, and most importantly, how it should not be taken for granted. This concludes our 2014 Remembrance Day ceremony. Please rise for the exit of our cadets and veterans.